Hello and welcome to that 90s Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, James Sunstone. Today, we are reviewing what many people have labelled the worst ever WrestleMania. I disagree with them, but you will hear my reasons why. Joining me once again, Podfather Mags. Mags, how you doing?
I'm disgusted that you made me sit through this. We should have skipped straight past and gone straight to SummerSlam. But apart from that, I'm doing good.
Good. Rob?
I'm doing good. I'm a massive history buff. I love a history documentary, so the chance to watch this documentary on Roman life and culture was just beautiful.
It was awesome. I like the ambience of Caesar's Palace in the car park.
Yeah. That was good.
Dan, how you doing?
Oh, I'm all right. This WrestleMania set in a car park was the second best fight in a car park I've seen this week, after two tramps from next door to my work decided to have a scrap over a sandwich.
Was it on a pole?
You what, Rob?
Was the sandwich on a pole?
No. No, sadly not. I'm pretty sure it'd been nicked from Greg's.
Nicked from Greg's. How low in your life do you have to be to nick a Greg's sandwich?
I'll let you know when I get there.
What type of sandwich was it? Was it chicken and bacon mayo or chicken salad mayo?
I didn't stick around to find out. I was too busy taking bets from my co-workers to see who'd win.
Oh. Was there a clear winner or was it DQ finish?
No, we got told to stop looking out the window.
Dan just closing the blinds slowly.
It was more a case of just getting the foot back to work.
Cool. So yeah, WrestleMania 9, it was held at Caesar's Palace in the car park, April 4th, 1993, in front of 16,891 fans. What do you call it? They actually turned quite a big profit on this one compared to WrestleMania 8, because Caesar's Palace itself actually paid WrestleMania six figures, and the prices they were charging for the tickets, it was something like $78 a ticket, roughly. And even though the year beforehand, it was the Hoosier Dome, wasn't it? WrestleMania 8.
Yeah.
Even though that stadium was arena, was 60,000 compared to the 16,000, they pretty much draw about the same amount of money, except WrestleMania 9 actually had a bigger net profit. So, yeah, that's one of the reasons why this isn't the worst WrestleMania of all time.
Vince just
only.
Vince just put all the profits on red.
Yeah.
After the show. That's what made it one of the most profitable.
I'm sounding like a bigger WWE Shield than Booker T at the minute.
It's one of the advantages of running a show in Vegas, though, because they get so many corporate buyouts from all the other casinos that are going to then go and give those tickets away to the customers or whatever as incentive to be there. You know, we've on Booking the Territory, we've reviewed shows in Vegas, and the crowds tend to be a bit weird because they didn't necessarily want to be there, but they've been given a free ticket. But, you know, that's the beauty of Vegas, that you're going to make your money because all these massive institutions around. Exactly. They'll have sold those before any wrestling fans got chance, and then, the second-hand whatever. So it's a great, from a financial point of view, brilliant idea by Vince.
Yeah. And the rest of the music media at the time, on top of the UK music charts, was the Bluebells, Young at Heart. Come on, Mags, I know you know this one.
I do know it.
Young at Heart. Go. Top of the US charts, Snow Informer. I know the song. Yeah. I can't. How the lyrics go?
Blah 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 down. Boom boom down. That one is the whitest white rapper that there ever was.
What the fuck are you guys on about?
You have to
look that up.
Afterwards.
You need to look it up. It's seriously a middle class white guy wearing glasses trying to be a rapper. Do you know Weird Al Yankovic?
Yeah.
Right. Do you remember when he did like a piss take of Riding Dirty? Called White and Nerdy. It's literally that. It's that song.
I'm in.
Cool. Top of the UK movie charts was Forever Young, Mel Gibson. I've only ever seen that once when I was a kid. It's like a war hero?
I have never ever seen it.
Oh, right. He's like a war hero. and he gets like cryogenically frozen in like the 40s, and then he gets woken up in the 90s.
Well, Demolition Man.
Well, yeah, but boring. Elijah Wood's in it, and like
you sold me.
I think he tries to seduce Elijah Wood's
Frodo
mum,
Baggins,
if I remember.
Mel Gibson trying to shag Frodo Baggins' mum.
Yeah, I think
This
that's
is
what it is.
Bill
I haven't watched
The
it since I
Nobbit.
was like 8. The Nobbit. Top of the US movie chart was Cop and a Half. Do you remember that?
Is that where there's a kid as a copper?
Yeah, is it Burt Reynolds or Tom Selleck? I think it's Burt Reynolds. I might be wrong.
I vaguely remember it.
Yeah, well, number 1 on top of the charts, I was going to mention it was Indecent Proposal. So yeah, Demi Moore. Oh man, she's a babe. And top of the video game charts, Mortal Kombat 2.
Love a bit of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
That's probably going to be top of the charts when we get to SummerSlam and Survivor Series, isn't it? I think.
pretty
Royal
much.
Rumble. The Christmas number 1 saw Royal Rumble as well.
It was massive. I mean, well, we've seen how long the top of the charts Street Fighter 2 was, and MK2 was just as big, if not bigger. So, yeah, definitely massive
Especially on the
game.
Mega Drive with the blood cheat.
Oh, yeah.
You have to see that green goo on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I love MK. I think I'll, because I call MK, Street Fighter, and Tekken my trinity for fighting games. MK is always my number 1. Even though I'm actually a better player at Tekken. I'm actually pretty decent at Tekken, but Street Fighter, I never really enjoyed it since Street Fighter 2. So I've tried to play new ones, but ain't for me.
Was
I'm crap at all fighting games.
Was it Virtual Fighter that had Minoru Suzuki in?
Was that
Was that
they were all
not the
like
Tekken?
Well, it was either Tekken or Virtual Fighter. It was one of the two. Yeah, just
Minoru
all
did
made
the
up
Minoru Suzuki did the motion capture for King in Tekken.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They did a whole like New Japan crossover with it, didn't they? They did
Yeah,
like a
that's right.
special edition of it.
Yeah. And go and
Caesar's Palace, Las Vegas, Nevada. Site Wrestlemania 9.
Welcome to Caesar's Palace, Wrestlemania 9, and the largest party in the world. First time ever for me to have on a toga. I could get used to this.
so we get to the opening. Do you like the nice little opening going up to Caesar's Palace and like the portrait of Brett and Yoko?
I appreciate the effort they put in. It looked better than it had any right to look for the amount they probably spent on it.
Like
Which
it
can't have been
was
a lot.
literally $4, weren't it? It was four whole dollars that they spent on it.
A favoured saying of UTT podcast, they did the best they could for the money.
I think this was really decent for 1993. I mean, you've got to remember that graphics weren't as they are these days.
Yeah, but
I thought
we also have seen the SummerSlam graphics where we've got like the pictures coming out of the logo. So I think they have done better than this one.
well, no, but that whole sort of pan through the virtual Caesar's Palace thing at the
Yeah,
start.
that was cool.
There's not been anything with that level of sophistication.
Speaking of sophistication, we see Gorilla Monsoon, and he's in a toga, and he welcomes everyone to the Lodge's toga party. And we see the debuting Jim Ross in a toga. So, what do you think to Jim Ross debuting?
By
Did you
God,
know-
I could get used to this. A man from Oklahoma could get used to this. Look at my goddamn flip flops.
Did you notice the camera panned him up and down?
Yeah, look, that was not a purpose though. That was the cameraman just looking and going, "Fuck's sake, Jim Ross, why have you signed? Leave now."
Apparently, so when Bischoff took over, he did not like Bischoff at all. And when Bischoff got made vice president or whatever it was at the time, it basically offered Jim Ross 2 options: sit at home and get paid, or take a pay cut and to go to WWE. And Jim Ross decided to take a pay cut and to join WWE. And runs down the card in the co-main event. And then we hear from Thinkers Maximus, and he introduces the opening, and we see Caesar and Cleopatra. I think they're the same ones from Royal Rumble, from what I can remember.
Yeah, they look like it.
Yeah.
I think they were.
Came on an elephant, which I like seeing elephants.
Yeah, they were
random.
riding a fucking elephant.
I like elephants. Don't see enough of them these days. And and then we see the Macho Man on the Sudan with the Vestal Virgins. What do you think to the Macho Man's get up? No toga for him, but he's looking pretty stylish.
He looked like he looked like he ready to wrestle. It looked like he turned up to have a match.
Well,
It looked like they transported a disco ball to Caesar's Palace.
Although it was kind of disco Roman. There were sort of Roman patterns in it, if that makes sense. He had put a little effort in because, a lot of wrestlers on the show just did nothing and turned up in the normal gear.
He had his crest on his back as well.
Yeah. He got a big pop from the crowd as well, and you just kept thinking, why ain't you wrestling today?
I've just remembered, when the Caesar and Cleopatra came in on the elephant, Jim Ross said, of course, elephants were famous in Roman times, used in many battles by Hannibal. Hannibal was attacking Rome. He wasn't Roman.
But they were still famous in Roman times for being used in many battles. He wasn't necessarily
against
wrong.
The Romans. He was just rubbing in deep wounds into his hosts.
He actually wanted to add fucking losers at the end of that sentence.
Yeah. In battles with these bastards, he wanted to say.
And then we see perhaps one of the most famous scenes in wrestling history, Bobby Heenan riding backwards on a camel. Apparently, Bobby Heenan was legit terrified of camels. And he fell over, and then Macho Man pulled up his toga, and he wore big blue granny panties.
Did you see Heenan threaten to backhand the ostrich as well on the way?
Yeah.
It was brilliant. He had all the grace of a drunk hippopotamus getting off that camel. It was absolutely brilliant. He called it an attack camel.
And that, ironically, was probably the best part of the whole show. And it goes downhill from there.
But the thing I like about this whole entrance is they've gone completely all in on the branding of Caesar's Palace. They've got all the people from, presumably from the in-house show that do whatever Roman thing they do at the casino. There's Roman-esque WWF logos all over the place. And it felt different. A lot of pay-per-views we get, especially these days, feel exactly the same. There's nothing that differentiates.
They are.
And this was complete. Whatever else you think about this was completely different. And to my mind, at least that element of it made it feel special.
I always say credit to them for trying something new. Credit to any company for trying something different. And they really did go all in with the costuming. Like you say, they must have raided the Caesar's Palace stock because the togas looked absolutely awesome. All the extras were decked out brilliantly. Like you say, it was just a shame they couldn't, maybe theme a few more of the entrances.
Yeah, and there was a cast of thousands of the extras as well.
Yeah.
There was quite a few, and this is the start of the show where Bobby starts burying Jim Ross. Jim Ross says, "You smell of camel," and Bobby's like, "You should be used to that smell coming from Oklahoma."
They had great back and forth all night, and then you just had Macho Man chuntering almost nonsensical bollocks to go along with it in the background.
His commentary was weird. It's almost like he was the one with Vince in his ear telling him what to say. And he just couldn't get his words out. It's almost like he was drunk with some of the stuff that he was saying. But the banter between Bobby and Jim was brilliant all the way through the show. When they were talking about a rodeo, I've been to a few rodeos and never seen people like that. And it's just absolutely brilliant. Just comedy all the way through.
Cool. So in our opening contest for the Intercontinental title, we've got the current champion Shawn Michaels opening WrestleMania for the third year in a row, and he's joined by the debuting Luna Vachon. You fans of Luna?
Did you hear what Bobby Heenan said about Luna Vachon?
Yeah, I did.
He said, "That's Luna Vachon. She comes from the greatest wrestling family ever." This is a show with Bret Hart on it for a start before you even start thinking about anyone else. But yeah, I know they like hyperbole in wrestling, but
Oh,
It was
when
a
he
step
said
too
that
far, wasn't it?
she's oh, step too far. When he said that she's a former Miss Ontario, Canada, I was like, what? But apparently her auntie actually was, but I don't think Luna was. um, and yeah, and he's up against Tatanka, joined by Sherry, and Bobby started off saying, "Sherry's come here, take me back, Sean." But yeah, nice back and forth to start the match off between these two, and yeah, Shawn Michaels. What you can say though, he always, when it comes to WrestleMania, he always puts on a hell of a show. Obviously, that's why they call him Mr. WrestleMania. But yeah, that was the best. Macho Man said, what do you call it? He believes that Luna's a festal virgin, but for other reasons.
The thing is, I'm sure none of them had actually said that to Luna's face, because I can't remember who she was out. It was one of her ex. She was out with one of her ex-husbands, and she ended up kicking about 3 or 4 dudes' asses in a bar fight, and he was just sat there drinking his drink, and the people were like, "Are you going to help your missus?" He's like, "Maybe if they had a couple more guys."
Yeah.
I'll just be in the way.
Yeah.
Oh, she's tough as nails. But yeah, good match. HBK hits he goes for a top rope dive, and Tatanka turns into arm drag, which I thought was pretty impressive. And then after that, Tatanka starts working the shoulder. But yeah, much is Lena from Oklahoma, and JR's like, absolutely not, and Bobby says no because she's pretty.
I mean, Bobby did have a bit of a hard on for Luna Vachon, didn't he? He was like really like bullying her up.
Oh, it did.
Or did he just really hate Oklahoma?
I mean, there is reasons.
I think it was his mission tonight to break Jim Ross in. This is what you're going to expect in WWE.
This is what you've got to keep up with.
Yeah.
Into the future and seeing Ed Ferrara and was taking it out on Jim Ross.
Oh yeah. But yeah, and Shawn Michaels also hits a nice diving clothesline off the apron and controls the match, but Tatanka makes a war dance comeback and hits a top rope crossbody for a 2 count. Catch and power slam also gets a 2. And end of the match comes where Shawn Michaels attempts another apron clothesline but misses and hits the steps. Tatanka rows in, and the referee's making a 10 count, but Shawn decides to pull the referee out, goes into the ring. Tatanka hits the Samoan drop, and he's got Shawn pinned basically, but the ref decides to call it a count out win for Tatanka instead. So yeah, good match, but I wasn't really impressed with the finish.
Yeah.
No, the finish was a bit of a clusterfuck, because why was it called a count out rather than a DQ?
Well, that's what I was thinking.
He actually did get to 10, but the problem was Tatanka was on the outside, and then Shawn was with him, and then Shawn rolls back in and rolls back out to break the count. But the referee's already at 3, and then he keeps counting Shawn even though Tatanka's gone back in. So it was like, because I watched it a few times to try and, because I was like, he's just got, how can he have been out when Tatanka was out for so long? I mean, I put in my notes, it was bullshit, because it was.
Yeah.
It was a bullshit finish.
And I think that's an issue that we get quite a few times in this card, that there's these kind of like ridiculous match finishers. This was a really good match. It was nothing kind of like spectacular. I enjoyed the stuff with the shoulder. Shawn's really good at selling those kind of body part workings segments. I didn't really kind of feel that Luna fitted in. It was almost. I know that there was the storyline of Sherry trying to get comeuppance with Shawn. And that Luna was there to basically combat Sherry, but she just felt like the odd one out in terms of the storyline, and the finish. The finish really takes away a lot of the good that the match did for me.
Yeah, well, the original plan was same with WrestleMania 8. The original plan was that it was going to be Shawn Michaels v Marty, but Marty wasn't Marty.
He was busy behind a bowling alley killing a dude.
Allegedly.
One thing though with this match, the aftermatch stuff between Sherry and Luna, when Luna dragged Sherry off the apron, how the hell did Sherry land like that in heels?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
It just absolutely planted it. And then Sherry took an ass kicking, to be fair. Yeah. And we got a line. I don't know if it was Jim Ross or Randy Savage said she needs some help, and Heenan just goes, she always did.
It's better than that. JR goes, she needs some help, and Bobby Heenan goes, she always did, with her makeup.
Oh, God, was that the follow-up? I just started typing after I heard she always did.
Yeah, and like in the Coliseum home videos, I remember that you see scenes of Lena attacking Sherry in the back, which we don't get on the network version. But very, very sad to say, this is the end of Sensational Sherry. Like we've mentioned quite a few times, like growing up, obviously you grew up hating Sherry. Going back watching these shows, like starting up at Rumble 90, like I've grown so much to appreciate how great of a talent she was. And yes, like she put, Macho over being with him. She put Ted DiBiase over being with him, and she put Shawn over being with him. So such a great talent, and sadly missing someone who doesn't get appreciated as much as what she should, I personally believe. But thoughts on Sherry leaving?
Yeah, it's sad because this would have been a really good face turn for her. I think she could have really shown her face chopped. I mean, we all know she's good at being the bitch. It would have been cool to see how far she could take being the good girl. But yeah, it's sad that she's gone. And like you said, James, it's weird how underappreciated she was. Because as a kid watching her, I hated her. She got involved. Yeah. She ruined the matches for the faces. She did exactly what she was there to do. And it's only as you realise it's not real and it's scripted that you realise how good at her job she actually was.
I'm pretty sure that in one of the shows reviewed, they said something about her being there for the dads. And maybe you have to be a certain age to appreciate her.
I appreciate it now. Yeah,
it's not the pantomime villain to the kids, and all the men of a certain age kind of have a soft spot for her, really, and
a hard spot.
And she got an orange over. I mean, how many people have managed to get an orange over?
She was sensational. She was an absolute star maker. She was. Elevated everybody that she worked with, apart from that one really weird promo exchange with Warrior.
Oh, that's good. Well, if we do veer into WCW territory, then perhaps we will be seeing her again. But for the time being, this is the end of Sherry. So yeah. So next segment, we see Mean Gene Okerlund dressed in a toga, and he's with the Steiner brothers. And I couldn't help but think this is WrestleMania 9. This is our first WrestleMania. I was thinking we got 33 and 3rd chance.
We got something almost as daft though when Scott Steiner re-rambles on about making the first Mania memorable, which was fine. But then Rick Steiner comes and said they'll do what they do best and wrestle and make Julius Caesar proud.
Yeah.
I'm just like, fucking what? I know you're at Caesar's Palace and you're trying to tie it in, but come on. And then he just started barking because that's what he did.
And these are the guys whose gimmick is they're the intellectuals.
Yeah.
Each of the university graduates and everyone else is.
Especially when you compare it to their opponents, the head shrinkers.
And I can't remember if this is the Mean Gene segment where he says he's not a gambling man. But then in almost every other segment, he's talking about gambling all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's very contradictory. But yeah, this was the kind of like genesis of ridiculous Steiner promos. You can really see why they led to Steiner maths and the Samoa Joe. He's got fair ass and stuff because it was nonsensical.
And he didn't even go, well, at the start of
it. Yep. So, next contest, it's the Head Shrinkers and the Steiner brothers. And JR said, We call this type of match a slobber knocker. Bobby Heenan replied, "I thought that's what you call the waitress at Tip Top Cafe in Tulsa, Oklahoma." Slobber knocker.
Oh wow, he was on top form. He was absolutely on. You could tell he had some fresh meat to bully, and he was just absolutely hazing Jim Ross.
Well,
I mean, props to Jim for taking it because he took some shit.
He rode it out pretty well.
Yeah.
when you use
Jim Ross was there. Sorry.
No, when you use up all your Mexican jokes on Tita and all your Native American jokes on Tatanka, you looked at Jim Ross, he was like, fresh meat.
Yeah.
Let me go with my redneck joke.
My hillbilly jokes. Yep. Let me get out your hillbilly jokes.
Well, there was one bit where Jim Ross was talking about college football, as he always tries to cram into every commentary thing. And Bobby Heenan said, "Who cares about high school football?" And I was like, "It's college sports." And he goes, "There's only 4 years difference, and you don't get paid." The point.
I love Bobby Heenan tonight, and like he spoke because I love Jim Ross, but when he goes on about college backgrounds, I'm like, who gives a fuck?
I tell you what, though, the Steiners must have been mafting in them jackets when they come out in the Vegas heat.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
They look pretty warm. By the way,
Won't
when you compare it though, you see them in the Letterman jackets, and then you see like the Hollywood, the Fasti blondes in the Hollywood and in the Fasti jackets. Now, I like the Fasti blondes. So I'm like, yeah, guys, extra £100 each, you'll be over.
Both varsity blondes could fit into Scott Steiner's jacket.
Yeah, exactly. There was a great spot when Rick and Scott was both on the turnbuckle and they both dived off for a double clothesline to head shrinkers. Did you catch it?
Yes, yeah, that was I enjoyed seeing that. Somehow it was a little bit weird looking, but it actually made perfect sense because the sort of locked arms,
Yeah,
just held onto each other's shoulders and just both dived in sort of synchronicity and just took them out. And it's like, well, yeah, that's how you do it.
yeah. And Scott Steiner, he's stupidly strong even back then. He hit like a great tiger suplex on Samu, but seconds afterwards, he nearly nearly dies when he runs towards Samu and completely overshots the stun gun. He goes flying out to the ring. I was like, fuck!
Yeah, I had to pause it and rewind at that point to try and tell if it was intentional.
It was insane, that spot. But the pausing and rewinding of that spot led me to notice something else. And it's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. And this needs to happen at every wrestling event. There was waitress service.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
And he kept seeing them, and there was like an army of them, and they were coming backwards and forwards and taking drink orders and bringing drinks back. It was like, this is amazing.
They were prepping for a COVID world before, nearly 30 years before it happened.
That was day zero of COVID. That one event.
That's how bad WrestleMania 9 was. It gave us COVID.
the COVID of WrestleMania.
I'm looking at the positives.
Did you like that
shot? Be ended by now then.
Did you hear that crack of the cane Affa delivered to Scott Steiner?
Anything like that? I've never seen anybody. Oh my! You can hear that.
Yeah.
Whacked him on the back. It was like crack. I was like, ooh, that hit.
At least hit him in the head so Steiner wouldn't feel it.
Oh yeah.
The thing with this match, I mean, technically there were some really good spots. Both teams were really kind of good. I mean, I think the head shrinkers were very underrated as a tag team. But for me, the Steiners gave the head shrinkers way too much. I think they kind of come off looking weakest, at least in the first, let's say, 10 minutes when it was pretty much all head shrinkers. But the match itself was probably the best match on the card. And at least we didn't get a stupid finish.
There was a great spot when Fatu got Rick on his shoulders and Samu dived off the top rope for like a crossbody and Rick reverses it into like a power slam.
That was so good.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was amazing. And soon after this, Scott hits the Frankensteiner on Samu. Not fully connected, but he hits it well enough and gets the 1, 2, 3. And I'll be honest, I really enjoyed this match. I know you said they gave the head shrinkers too much. They probably did, but I like that old school mentality of like, getting the heels getting heat and the faces making the comeback. But that's just me. But I really enjoyed this match, and the Steiner brothers. I've always been fans of the Steiner brothers, just these two big lads, and who can actually wrestle as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed this.
Did you hear what Bobby Heenan said about the finish? Because
What did he
obviously
say?
Scott Steiner hadn't properly connected with Samu, and Samu like rolls over afterwards following him. And then Bobby Heenan really cheekily says, I want a replay of that. And
Yeah, that's right.
it's clear that Macho Man must have Vince in his ears, because he said, you don't need a replay, you're not getting one.
Tell him he's not getting a replay, god damn it.
Tell that asshole off.
He's a fire.
It was a good match. At this point, I was at the point of optimism where I was like, maybe WrestleMania 9 isn't as bad as I remember it. I enjoyed the opening. I enjoyed the opening Intercontinental title match. I enjoyed this tag match. This might actually be decent looking back on it.
And then Doink comes out.
Oi, respect Doink. Speaking of Doink, he joins Mean Gene backstage and shows you the arm attack on Crush, the false arm. And as he leaves, he squirts Gene with the fake flower. And yeah, next match, Crush v Doink. Always been a Crush fan ever since he buried Reaper Man at SummerSlam '92.
And again, we're on a change in attitude. We're up to the point where Crush has come back as the ex-con gimmick with his dreadlocks and his face tattoo. So yeah, that was not a good version of Crush.
And Doink comes out with that great theme song, the theme song what nightmares are made of. And we'll splice it in.
Oh, it was brilliant. I love that theme music, but I love B horror movies, and I've been to a lot of like scare attractions that was ripped straight out of one of them.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anybody in wrestling at this time who had facial expressions like Doink. The way he went from being the happy, smiley comedy clown to the evil, I'm going to murder you in your sleep clown. Such good facial expressions.
It went from the Krusty from The Simpsons to Stephen King's It in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
He did the character with a lot of depth. He did. And just on your point about hitting Crush's biker gimmick, we're just getting up to the point on booking the territory where Crush is in Chronic with it's Brian Clark and Brian Adams.
Friend of the show.
I think this Hawaiian gimmick Crush is his best one, though, I think.
Ah, yeah. I love Curly Kush. And takes control of the match. And there's one point where JR calls us, what do you call it? A neck breaker, a snap man. Bobby says, it's a neck breaker. If you need help, I'll tell you. So
I like that from a commentator. But especially heel commentator, you can get away with it. Just call out the bullshit. It works so well because you're just like, you'd be sat there. I was sat there going, "Oh, leave him alone. He got one wrong. So what?"
I mean, maybe this 2021 JR could do with a Bobby Heenan then to call him out when he doesn't even remember wrestlers' names.
I'll tell you, Doink hit like a nasty power driver and crushed him. Did you hear it? Did you see it? Crush's head hit the
just sit back one, and you could see the gap between Doink's legs and Crush's head. Yeah, that was mean. Mrs. Mags was actually watching along when that were on, and she said, "Has he just stole that move from the Undertaker?" I'm like, "No, it's not the same. It's not the same move."
At least she's learning, though.
Yeah, she saw the clown and thought, I don't like clowns. I want to see what happens here.
There was a bit just after that where Crush sort of goes to the outside and he's dazed from the pile driver. And Doink kind of reaches through the second rope and rams his head into the post.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sort of thing. You never see stuff like that, but I thought it was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little bit of a shame, though. Just afterwards, they did this bit where Doink jumps off the second rope and Crush catches him and turns it into a power slam. And there'd been a spot in the Steiner head shrinkers where the head shrinkers and Rick Steiner had caught one off. He's caught Fatu off Samu's shoulders. So if they'd seen that, they probably wouldn't have put this in. But it was a decent spot if you hadn't had the other one.
I think Tatanka done it to Shawn Michaels in the opener as well, like a similar spot as well. So it was like 3 matches in a row.
It was Tatanka catching Michaels in the arm drag.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, and Krish gets him into a military press. He's a big guy. He's a strong guy, and gives him the Kona Krish. Ref accidentally gets knocked down, but does it again to Doink, and then the second Doink comes out. Do you know who plays the second Doink?
Nope.
It's Doink. No one plays Doink. It's Doink.
I only saw one Doink.
Delusion.
It's David Copperfield's fault.
I thought we know who this is.
They looked under the ring after the match.
Is it
another Doink?
Is it not Steve Lombardi?
No.
Ray Apollo.
Skinner.
Ah.
Oh, really?
Yep. And this is the last time we'll be seeing Skinner. But yes, Skinner Doink comes out, hits Krish over the head with the fake arm.
And it's so fake. It wobbles when the hand's striking with it. That would not hurt at all.
Does the mirror spot with Doink, which I thought was fun. I did enjoy it, even though they was out of sync.
I can't believe you were all brushing over the best move on the whole show when Krish tries to do like a spinning kick. And he gets his foot about a foot off the ground and doesn't make contact with Doink at all. It's brilliant.
And Doink covers him for the 1, 2, 3. Fonzie comes out, checks under the ring, tells the referee that was 2 Doinks, and
the little snitch, the absolute snitch. And the drama of the way he was like telling him as well, like even played up to the crowd. There was 2 Doinks. There was definitely 2.
We've got a double Doink situation here.
Question: after this match, so did the Skinner Doink stay under the ring for the rest of the event, or how did he get out? Because
the reason we've never seen him again is that he's just fried to death.
Yeah, he's still there. It's still a Doink costume corpse.
It was like a saw trap.
Did you say what the original plans was for the ending of this match?
3 Doinks?
2 Crushes.
No. So, according to Matt Borden, who played Doink, one of the original ideas, but it got spoiled by Dave Meltzer. So he was gonna have this compartment in his outfit, and it would run into his mask. So when Krish applied like the Kona Krish to his head,
don't say explodes. That would have been
kind of like all these like multicolored like liquids would just burst out of his head and blind Krish, and he would pin Krish. But apparently Dave Meltzer reported it, so they had to change the plans.
What a simple dick. That would have been absolutely amazing. That I would have loved the show then.
Meltzer,
Thanks, Dave. You've wrecked WrestleMania now for me.
We could have got multicolored. We could have got multicolored clown blood.
One of the funniest stories after this as well. So Matt Bourne's wife was in attendance, and she got really upset with him because she saw Doink chatting up a girl backstage, and she thought it was him, but apparently it was Skinner. And it took him. He was like, "No, it wasn't me. It was the other Doink."
The perfect excuse. Seriously, it was definitely not me who was caught with that lass. It was the other me.
You can tell because one of us had most of his face paint gone.
Correct.
Cool. So next we see the debut of friend of the show, Mr. Todd Pettingill. So great to see Todd, and everyone, please go back and check out my interview where we talk about WrestleMania 9. And like myself, Todd also loved it. But yeah, please everyone check out that interview because it's one of my favorites. But he goes to these stereotype Japanese photographers.
I mean, not to rag on friend of the show, Todd Pettingill, but this was very, very slightly racist. The Japanese photographer couldn't understand what he said and just laughed. Yeah.
Yokozuna #1.
God, yeah, it was painful, wasn't it?
The first one said in Japanese that it was Doink under the ring and then Yokozuna. Claiming the second Doink was Yokozuna.
Can you imagine?
Oh, in a few shows time, we'll see a guy of a similar size dress up as Doink.
I want to see Yokozuna.
Maybe Doink will we see it. Go. So next match we see Razor Ramon, and he's against Bob Backlund. I was looking at this match, I was thinking Razor Ramon's the type of wrestler that fans like myself would love to watch. Bob Backlund's the type of wrestler that today's fans would love to watch in Ring of Honor or AEW. Just a pasty, boring, generic creator wrestler.
I remember watching this WrestleMania and my dad just being, "Oh, this is ridiculous. There's no way he should be in the ring with Razor Ramon. He's half his size."
Yeah.
The clown he was fine with.
Yeah. the clown worked. An actual wrestler, no. And again, going back to a change in attitude, we're at the period where Bob Backlund's just made friends with the Iron Sheik, and they're bringing in Rikishi or the Sultan. So, yeah, a lot of linking back to my other podcasts here. But, yeah, did this match need to happen?
No. It was. I spoke a lot on UTT in the early days about sort of disparity in tone and sort of the clash between Attitude Era and New Generation coming in. This feels like that, but obviously a few years previous. We've got Razor Ramon who comes out. He looks cool as fuck. He's huge. He's jacked up. He's tanned. He's athletic. And then Backlund comes in, just this pasty little dude who they keep ragging on for being old, even though he's in his early 40s. And he's just sort of there, and he's just doing this weird little ass wiggle all the time and trying to be a sportsman. It felt just completely out of time.
Yeah, it's a massive clash of like wrestling styles.
Well, I mean, talking about things we've covered on other podcasts, we've just recorded an episode where Goldberg eats Scott Hall's contract. And behind him.
But there was a big chance for Razor as well, and he was like the heel. But just not much to say about this match. Razor does win with a 1-2-3. If I was to say to you in about a year and a half time, who would be the WWF champion? Who would you pick? Who do you think it would be between these two?
I know, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's amazing. Don't get wrong. I love that Bob Backlund psychopath character because he played it so well.
But not as a champion.
Not as a champion, but especially when you look at Razor, who never held title. I mean, look at Razor, man's a beast. Like, look at him. But yeah, so win for Razor on his WrestleMania debut. Next we see Mean Gene, and he's with Money Inc. Looking awesome. Simple as that.
That suit is one of the best bits of wrestling attire ever that Ted DiBiase wears. I know I've said it before, but I'll keep saying it until we stop seeing it.
We need to introduce a best dress award. Like, we should have done it by now because Ted DiBiase will be winning it every week.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, they show the video of them showing Brutus Beefcake return and them attacking beefcakes with a briefcase to the face.
And did they lay it in as well?
It was great.
Really, yeah, you could hear that. I mean, I know they had a brick in it to weigh it down, but it really looked like they're connected with his face.
I love that IRS calls them the mega morons. That gave me a pop, to be fair. And he teases that Hulk Hogan's had an accident in the gym, so which we'll see. And so the next match, it's one of the co-main events. It's for the WWF Tag Team titles. It's the champions, Money Inc., and they're up against the Mega Maniacs. Money Inc. out first, and we see the red and yellow smoke, and we see Brutus Beefcake with his titanium mask. Also forgot to mention that the little weasel Jimmy Hart has turned on Money Inc., and he's now with Hogan and Beefcake. And we see a guy who looks similar to Hulk Hogan, but about 100 pounds less of muscle.
And with one permanently black eye.
It didn't look like that bad a shiner at first glance, did it?
It's the eyeball. The eyeball is fully black. No, I don't know if it's like been gimmicked to look like that, but it just looked really, really brutal, like disgustingly brutal. Does anyone actually know how he got that?
Yeah, we know where Malachi Black has got his gimmick from.
Yeah, exactly. But do we actually know how that happened? Because I know there's like a lot of rumor and innuendo.
So the rumor for the longest time, it's the rumor people likes to believe because it's the most fun rumor, is that Macho Man gave him a black eye because over Miss Elizabeth. The true story, he had a jet ski accident, sorry, and it must have hit him or something like that, but it was involving a jet ski. But in kayfabe, the Money Inc. Hired not an assassin, but some goons.
Assassin.
Some goons, and they attacked Hogan with a dumbbell or something like that. So that was it in kayfabe. But to start the match off, like the Mega Morons attack Money Inc. while the theme song is still playing, and I know they say Shawn Michaels had the boyhood dream winning the WF title at WrestleMania 12, but Brutus Beefcake in the ring with Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania is the boyhood dream.
Especially when he's there looking like a shit luchador themed Power Rangers villain.
That mask, it looks like an Aldi version of a Batman.
It looks like one of those like Poundland own brand action figures.
Yeah, where it's not, you know it's meant to be, but for trademark rules they've got to just make it a slightly different.
The legally distinct, definitely not.
Yeah.
It was useful, that mask, though, because when DiBiase comes off the rope with the double axe handle, he lands on the mask and hurts his hands.
Yeah. But yeah, heels work over Brutus for the biggest part of the match. Hogan does take over, clears the ring. Oh, that's my favourite spot of the match. Hogan takes over and he clears the ring. And Brutus is in the ring clapping along. And he goes to give Hogan a double high five. Hogan just walks past him. And Beefcake is just stood there with his hands up. I thought that was so fucking hilarious. But yeah, and Money Inc. goes to leave, but the referee, Earl Hebner, decides to make the match about himself, says that if Money Inc. doesn't return to the ring, they'll lose their titles. So
the Screwjob King.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The only referee I know who makes up the rules as he sees fit. Ridiculous.
And Money gets back in control, and DiBiase slaps on the $1 Million Dream onto Hogan, and he goes a Hulk up, but DiBiase keeps it hold, and referee gets distracted by IRS, and Brutus Beefcake, in a very, very heelish move, decides to slap onto the sleeper hold onto DiBiase, and both him and Hogan is knocked out on the floor. So what do you think to that face move by Beefcake?
I mean, it's typical for a Hogan match around this era. He was a douchebag. It's as simple as that. He may have had the crowd eating out the palm of his hands, but he was doing douchebaggy things. So it's obvious his pet was going to do the same.
Can I just go back to the to Ted DiBiase with the $1 Million Dream applied and Hogan fading? This is where we got a really top-notch bit of savage commentary, saying standing room only, the hanging from the rafters. If they had rafters, it's the Roman Colosseum. They have columns. They're hanging from the columns. Fucking great work, Randy. That does sound like Vince McMahon's stream of consciousness.
And DiBiase takes Brutus's mask off. Referee gets knocked out during this time, and Brutus makes a hot tag to Hulk. Hulk hits the heels with the masks, and both him and Brutus covers both for the 3 count, but the referee's knocked out, so Jimmy Hart reverses his jacket inside out.
It was so ridiculous. Like, if you have anything resembling a referee's costume, you are a referee. That's how that clearly works.
I told this story on UTT. I was at a North Show in Newcastle once. It was around Halloween time, and a guy came dressed as one of the referees. So he just had a ref shirt on and black trousers. In the main event, which was Rampage versus Screwface, two big beefy bastards in a street fight. Referee got knocked out, and Rampage was going for the 3. A couple of his mates were encouraging him to go in the ring and count the 3. This dude just on the sideline, he got about up to his nipples into the ring before Rampage just looked at him and told him to fuck off. Stand back in his position. And I don't think I've ever seen anyone shit the pants quicker.
Wow.
But yeah, Danny Davis comes down to the ring and he awards the match to Money Inc. by DQ. And they decide to throw Danny Davis out the ring, the faces. And then they go to celebrate and they grab the briefcase and there's like tax forms and a brick and some money. And Hulk Hogan hands out the money one by one to the fans while Brutus Beefcake pockets it.
And Heenan screams that he's going to go down to ringside.
Yeah.
Brutus probably saw the writing on the wall. He knew that Hulk was gonna screw him pretty soon. So you need to start saving that money as quick as possible.
The bit that annoyed me most about all of this was that the fucking posing that Hogan was doing before they got to the briefcase, it went on longer than the Razor Ramon versus Backlund match. Not that I wanted to see more of that match, but given the time, they could have put on something worth half a shit.
Yeah, this show was pretty much from here. Hogan must pause for the rest of the show because he's even involved in a promo later on that has nothing to do with him whatsoever, but he still has to stick his 2 pence in, and then we'll get to obviously the end when we get the ultimate fucking Hogan must pause.
Yep. And next, I'll tell you what I will say though, the fans loved it.
Well, it's free money.
Yeah, the crowd were chanting for Hogan.
And free money. They were loving this.
Hogan thought they wanted him to pose more. They were just saying, "Give us some of that fucking money."
I mean, even Natalie Cole, when she was talking to Tom Pettingill, was saying, "Oh, I wish I got some of that money."
Cool. I love that at the end of every Todd interview, every time he segued, he put on like a Vince McMahon voice. Gene's back to you. So he got the mandate.
Well, this is the promo he does with the CEO of Caesar's Palace, and it was just like a massive advert. Like, yeah, we've had lots and lots of shows here. We've had the world's best boxing, over 80 boxing matches here at Caesar's Palace, and it's absolutely amazing. The WWF staff have been superb, and yeah, we're the biggest show in town. Come and visit us at the Caesar's Palace.
I started falling asleep in the match before this. It was that interview with the CEO of Caesar's Palace that actually made me nod off.
I am not surprised. I mean, even Todd, who's like new to the company, and he's like, "Fuck's sake, I need to wrap this cunt up." Oh, yeah, give us a hug, big guy.
I've got the opposite view on this. A lot of this WrestleMania was a cluster. The only thing that was good was Caesar's Palace and the branding. And this guy is hitting all his points. You know, he knows he's only got some time on.
I'm not disputing that. He knew he had to get his words out and sell Caesar's Palace, but it just felt like a massive advert in the middle of a pay-per-view.
Take notes.
I looked it up, and there were 3 major casino complexes opening up within the vicinity of Caesar's Palace. You know, rivals within the same year that this WrestleMania happened. So obviously they brought WrestleMania 9 in as kind of something to combat that and try and get people to go to their casino. So obviously he's going to be trying to sell the thing. This is why they've got them in the first place.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And we see Gene, and he's with Mr. Perfect, and talks about Lex Luger and talks about Lex attacking Brett, and then he says, "I'm perfect. I don't mess anything up." Then he botches Lex Luger's name.
The
Lexicist.
Yeah, the Lexicist.
Tonight, the narcissist Lex Luger. I'm gonna go do it right now. I've had it. I'm so excited. It's WrestleMania. Watch what happens. By the way, don't go too far away.
Gene, the narcissist Lex Luger. I'm just excited. And then he walks off, and you can hear in the background, Lex Luger. Cool. So next match, we see Lex Luger through Mr. Perfect, and Lex Luger with what I wrote down, the greatest entrance in the history of WrestleMania.
He looked like a muscular baked potato with that bloody
I
silver
wasn't looking
cape on.
at Dan. I wasn't looking at him. I was
If
looking at
you
the
were
bikini-cladded,
looking at- yeah.
big-breasted ladies.
If you were looking at Lex in this intro, then there's something wrong, because he was not the focal point of this entrance at all.
I was like a
It was hot.
magpie. I was just like shiny. Kept getting distracted.
And,
It was
you know,
hot.
I actually really liked as well the mirror spot, what they did in the ring with the little fireworks coming off. I mean, it did burn the hair of the young ladies, but I thought it was a clever how they had like the 4 mirrors and the camera work showing like different angles of Lex. But yeah,
They
God,
weren't
he
just fireworks,
loved
Mike.
himself.
They weren't just fireworks. They were Roman candles.
They were AEW fireworks.
And
Well,
we're missing the big thing on this entrance. Rene Goulet sighting.
Yes.
Andy got a toga.
Yes, so it's not Rene Goulet, it's Reneus Gouleicus.
Gouleicus sounds painful.
But the bikini girls, yep, 2 thumbs up. That's an extra 5 points on the WrestleMania meter for me. And as Mr. Perfect makes his way out, did you notice that one of them stroked Mr. Perfect's chest on the way out?
And,
And
he bats her away. He's like, get away.
then he started to smile. I thought, yeah, you fucked her last night, didn't you?
My wife's watching, bitch.
Cool. But yeah, so going into this match, so I watched a interview Lex Luger done, because I didn't personally think this was a bad match, but it seemed to me that Lex was actually leading the match. So I listened to this interview, and Lex said that going into this match, he said, I was so relaxed. He said, I'm working with Mr. Perfect on my debut. This is going to be a walk in the park. It's Kurt Hennig, one of the greatest of all time. So he said, we're going over the match. He said, and I'm not really paying too much attention because it's Mr. Perfect. I know I'm going to be good. And apparently, when they locked up, Perfect went to Lex and said, okay, what are we doing now? So...
and Lex just absolutely shit his pants.
Yeah, he had to lead the match. And he got asked, he said, was you being ribbed? He said, I heard that. He said, because I heard that Perfect was a ribber, but he wasn't. He was so sincere. If he ribbed me, he got me good. But he said, he wasn't ribbing me. He said, I had to lead the match. He said, and we done the best we could. And I don't think it was a bad match. It wasn't a great match by any means, but it wasn't too bad. And like, end of the match. One thing I did write though during this point of the show, that I felt sorry for the fans on the camera side, because the sunshine, they was all covering their eyes because they could not see a fucking thing.
Yeah, that was really bad. There was actually saw a security guard having to give his hat to a child.
Yeah.
Child couldn't see. But one of the things I liked about this match, Perfect has Luger in a leg lock, and then Luger sells for most of the rest of the match that his leg's injured. I mean, the people just pop up these days, regardless of whatever's been done to them, and there's no effect. But I thought that was really good.
Luger did also find a way to counter the, when you take the front turnbuckle bump, and that's why you just go as slowly as possible and very gently fall backwards, because he took the weakest front turnbuckle bump I've ever seen. And on a show with Bret Hart, if you're going to do the front turnbuckle spot, you got to put your all into it. Don't half-ass it, because Bret's going to do it better than you.
And so the end of the match comes where Perfect attempts a backslide pin, but Lex catches the bottom rope with his legs, and he turns into his own backslide pin. And even though Perfect legs gets onto the ropes, pinfall still counted for the 1, 2, 3, and Lex Luger wins on his Mania debut. And afterwards, he hits the clothesline on Perfect with the metal plate in his forearm, and Perfect is out for a bit, but then he goes to chase him, and we see Lex Luger chatting backstage to Shawn Michaels. What do you think they was talking about?
In the car park. In the fucking car park.
Did you see that match? Yeah, I fucked Perfect up. And Perfect comes, attacks him. Shawn Michaels gets involved, attacks perfect. And you see Lex Luger walking off while them two kill each other.
It's a good heel move. Why get in a fight when you don't have to? I actually could like the finish of this match as well, with the backslide into the ropes and Hennig's Mr. Perfect's feet, being caught in there, the ref not seeing it. Could he have kicked out if his feet were in the ropes? All the rest of it, and the stuff with Michaels. If we get Michaels and Perfect down the line, then I'm all for that.
Yeah, they do feud after this. Unfortunately, we don't. I don't think we see them on pay-per-view. I might be wrong, but they do have a few TV spots, and they have like a really good street fight where they destroy Howard Finkel's car in a memorable spot outside the Manhattan Center itself.
Yes, I remember that.
It does transition into a
Wasn't
feud.
that his new car as well? And Vince ordered, basically said, "You've got to destroy that car in the match."
Yeah, he did replace it.
Yeah.
To be fair, but
I think we're actually crying because it was that was like his pride and joy.
yeah. But yeah, so that's the end of that. So yeah, I enjoyed that bit. But we go to the.
Oh, sorry. We missed out a classic Heenan bit right at the end, with the commentators arguing about Perfect, and Macho Man gets hot and stands up, and Heenan actually hides behind JR.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know I've taken it too far. I'm sorry.
But that actually looked kind of. I mean, I know it's wrestling and it's kayfabe, but Macho looked pretty pissed off then, and Bobby was giving it backing both barrels and like holding JR as like an Oklahoma shield.
Fans were cheering for it as well.
Let's fucking hit him.
Twat the weasel.
So we get to the penultimate. Well, first we see Gorilla, and he hypes up the remaining two matches, Taker v Gonzalez and Brett and Yoko, and we see the Giant Gonzalez, and all I wrote down was ass crack.
Yeah, why? I mean, we've already mentioned about him having this ridiculous painted on bodysuit, but why draw on an arse and then also a pube line? It just didn't look good at all.
At least he'd shaved all his fur for the occasion.
There's so many jokes I can make about this, but I will get cancelled, so I'm not going to say them jokes. But like it in kayfabe, is he a guy wearing a suit, or is he actually meant to be like a beast, like from the? Where's he from? Argentina? So is it the Maldives?
He's the beast of Gibraltar.
Yeah.
I think he's supposed to be a beast. I mean, Bobby Heenan shouted as soon as he saw him, "He's 20 foot tall."
Yeah.
They even called themselves out on the over-exaggeration of his height.
Yeah.
That's how far they went with it.
He was a big guy though. He was a big lad.
It was a legit 7'7".
Yeah. But Taker comes out next with the Smoke and the Vulture, and it's a great entrance. I really enjoyed the entrance. And like the stare down was pretty good to look at the stare down, but then the bell rang, I suppose you could say.
And then the bell rang, and God, even Undertaker couldn't carry this to a passable match. It was shit. Let's not make any kind of bones about it. This was terrible.
Macho Man said, Taker's not real. He's from down under. I'm like, Australia? Good night, mate.
Randy Savage is the godfather of that conspiracy that the flat earthers use that say Australia isn't real and all Australians are paid actors. That Bo Dallas probably believes.
I think he said another line that you can't kill the Undertaker because he's a dead man. You can't kill the dead. No shit.
I know you probably shouldn't.
Sorry, I'm watching The Walking Dead. Yes, you can.
I know you shouldn't look too closely at the rules of wrestling, but giving Gonzalez a standing 5 count when he's chloroforming the Undertaker, I mean, that's an instant disqualification.
He gave him a low blow earlier in the match when Taker was on the turnbuckle. He punched him right into the dick.
I got that written down like full-on dick punch.
Yeah.
And then I don't think that the commentary could have sold that they could smell the chloroform more than they did. Like, what's that stench? Is it chlorophyll? Chlorine? No, it's chloroform. Like, for fuck's sake. Chloroform doesn't even smell that bad. It's actually quite a sweet smell, and they're like, oh my god, this fucking
Why do you know this,
stench.
Mags?
Why do I know? Smell this
Max
cloth.
gets in his free time.
But
Getting high on chloroform.
yeah, it was overselling the fact he had chloroform on a cloth.
But so he gets chloroform on the cloth, knocks Taker out, but gets DQ'd for it. And Taker gets tucked to the back. We do see Renee Goulet, and I say Renee Dupree, Renee Goulet in the toga.
I mean, if you can get Renee Goulet on, that's first of all absolutely amazing, and also probably very impossible. But you could have Cafe de Renee's.
Yeah. But yeah, and he gets tucked to the back. Gonzalez is celebrating the ring, and the fans are chanting for Hogan.
What a bunch of bastards.
That would have been great to see, by the way. Like, Hogan being Gonzalez.
Yeah, just coming out and winning after every single match on the card. Just Hogan wins everything.
Hogan must pose.
One weird thing I noticed about Gonzalez, sorry to take it on a little bit of a left turn, for as thick and magnificent as his beard was, and as thick and magnificent as his shoulder hair could be, he had a really wispy little tash.
Yeah, it was awful, wasn't it?
Just made no sense.
Like a trophy road. But the bell dongs, and Taker does return, clotheslines Gonzalez and takes him down, and celebrates in the ring. Awful match. Is Gonzalez the worst wrestler ever?
Ever. He's definitely in the top 5.
Top 5. I think one of our earliest episodes, Mags, you said, was it Sapphire was the worst ever wrestler you've ever seen?
I mean, she's not good. I mean, I'd still put her up against Jane Gonzalez, to be fair.
To be fair, I would put Brandy Rhodes above him. She's fucking terrible.
That's
What's that infamous TNA women's match that's like panned as one of the worst ever? Who's in that?
Sharmell and
yeah,
the chick from Survivor, is it?
Yeah, we've watched that for. I'm sure it was for Badlands.
Yeah, I was on it with you. On it with you.
It was horrific match. That's a horrific match. The end of it is just ridiculous.
And someone talk.
So now
Gene interviewing Hogan.
Gene and Hogan with his thoughts on a match that he has fuck all to do with. Because we all need to know what Hogan feels about the Yokozuna and Bret Hart match. Because you know Bret Hart, he's a Hulkamaniac. He's ate his vitamins and he's said his prayers. And we don't like that Yokozuna because he's a fucking Jap. Oh, it's
Christ,
very xenophobic. It's very, very xenophobic.
And he gives away the end of the show as well.
Yeah.
Don't you think it was a bit patronising? In fact, he called Brett a little Hulkamaniac. I think of you. You little
A warning to the wise, brother. You're a brother. You're a Hulkamaniac.
Do you remember when you were wearing my bandana at WrestleMania 1?
It was painful.
It's like that promo Piper cut about him, about Bret Hart's at the previous WrestleMania, isn't it? About him on his slim bicycle.
Where he only got one piece of bologna in his sandwich.
Except the Piper promo was good and led to something that wasn't shit.
Yeah, this was
Hogan
Hogan
just something we didn't want.
This was just Hogan saying, "Listen, guys, I can't tell you, but I'm going to be walking out of Caesar's Palace as the WWF champion. Believe me, brother."
I can't wink. I've got a black eye.
Oh, you did wink. You just didn't notice it because it was just all coloured. It was all black.
I can't wink because if I do, I'll explode my eyeball.
Fucking pause he did with the towel, and he's like that on his chin, and he's like going, "Oh, is He was an annoying fucker, weren't he, Hulk Hogan?
Do you think he got his black eye from going around everyone in Vegas in the week leading up to WrestleMania doing big winks at them?
You want me to pose for you?
I remember because before Hogan popped on, I remember they show like Yoko like Bonsai and like Duggan, and then Bonsai and Brett. And I remember years ago, I must have been like 10 or 11, and my grandfather came over for a visit, and I was watching this, and my granddad's he's no cunt. he's very smart, sarcastic. My granddad is. And he's like, and when they saw like Yoko's Bonsai splashing Brett, if that was real, he would have squashed him. He'd be dead. I was like, oh, fuck off, Granddad.
No, actually, this was another point where Mrs. Maggs come in and so in, and she said, when you saw the image of Brett just underneath Yoko, she said, God, I bet that stunk.
It was when you saw the skid mark on his chest after.
I actually told her then about the Andre the Giant story in Bad News Brown where he shit on him.
Yeah.
Do you reckon Yoko ever farted on anyone when he did the bonsai drop? Just anybody he didn't like, just boom.
I don't think if it was anyone he didn't like, it's just the pressure of being 500 odd pounds coming down, it's going to release something.
Yeah. So we see Todd. He talks to one little kid.
He mocks the small child's ears.
French Charles. Then there's one other kid which gets in the way. He pushes him out the way, and he interviews.
That was brilliant. Come on, move you little shit.
He talks to these two drunk dudes who are awesome. They're both in togas, and they start wrestling each other.
They were curtains. They look like curtains what they'd stolen.
Well,
they were great.
It said, where do you get these costumes from? And they said, the Days Inn.
Yeah.
Todd had one of the lines of the night, though, when they decided to do like half-assed wrestling moves on each other. And he just went, calm down, you're spilling beer, as if that was his primary concern. Which, if it was, I respect that, man, even more.
Todd's great.
Because Todd had to pay for his own dry cleaning. He didn't want to have to fork out, that's all.
He did say in the interview that like I had just so much beer spilt on me walking in between the stands. So
He must have stunk, bless him.
He's a welcome addition to the show. So yeah, great to see Todd and see many more of them. So main event time. So for the WWF title, Yokozuna v Bret Hart. Yoko's out first, accompanied by some geisha girls who's in the ring. And
so is that all of the champions came out first on the card? Because Shawn Michaels came out first.
Yoko came out on this one.
Oh.
Yep. He's about to go into a rant. That's just another reason why this WrestleMania is shit.
Oh, it's just when you mentioned it, then I thought that all the champions, because obviously we had Money Inc. as champions coming out first. Yeah, I remember now Bret, because he's in all the pink, innit?
Yeah.
The title, that title looks good on Bret. It really does look good on him.
I love the entrance as well. You know, the camera that runs up to him as he's coming out. Like he's used that a few times. I love that camera shot. What happens?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Sorry, I got distracted for a second. I've got Sky Sports News on in the background, and we're just showing the Dortmund Bayern goals. I got distracted by something shiny again.
We're there waiting for the Bret Hart mark to jump in. Is that yeah? It was good. That yeah.
I was thinking as well about how pissed off I am when champions come out first. It's one of my pet hates in wrestling. Mm-hmm. And if they'd have done that with Bret Hart, then I'd have had something to say.
Yeah.
Well, relegation needs to get home, so they had to be out first.
Good start to the match when Bret hits like a Finn Balor dropkick to Yoko in the corner. That was awesome.
Yeah, shotgun dropkicking straight in with the punches after we got really gratuitous shots of Yoko's legs and ass as he's squatting down.
Yeah. Well, they had to even it out. Like I got spoiled with like the gold bikini-cladded girls and thongs, and then to balance out, I had to look at Yoko. unfortunately. But Yoko takes over things quite early on. Then Brett's on the outside and rips Yoko's leg and ties it into the ropes.
That was so clever, really, really clever. A good way to take him down. Then the springboard, and then essentially just laying into him whilst his foot was down, trapped in the ropes. Yeah, I thought that was a really clever spot.
And they'd made a big thing when Yoko had first come in about nobody being able to knock him off his feet.
Yeah.
Sort of clever way. And then once you've sort of, broken the seal on that aspect, then it makes more sense. And Yoko goes on to bump like a trooper in this match.
It was, we'll get to the finish later. It was a really good match, I thought, because Brett was obviously the underdog going in, and he booked it so well. And like Yoko did control biggest part of the matches and hit a big leg drop. And Brett wrote in his book that when Yoko hits his leg drop, you can't feel a thing. He was so safe, like hitting that leg drop. And it's amazing to think about because look at the size of the guy's leg.
It's like being leg dropped by a blancmange. That's why.
Yeah. And Yoko attempts a corner splash, but Brett avoids it. And Brett starts making a comeback. And elbow drop, diving clothesline. And he exposes the turnbuckle, which it was a clever spot because he was given like the 10 punch to Yoko. Yoko picks him up and he goes to rip him away from the turnbuckle.
Mm-hmm.
But Brett grabs the turnbuckle and the padding comes off in his hands as he gets torn away from it. So that was a clever spot and hits Yoko's head onto the turnbuckle, hits the sharpshooter, and Mr. Fuji takes forever to get the salt out. There's a reason for it, which I'll mention in a bit. Throws the salt into Brett's eyes. 1, 2, 3, and the new champion. Before we get to the aftermath, what did you think to the match?
Well, it was definitely the best match on the show. It did get a USA chant, but that's just
which again I mentioned to Mrs. Maxwell. None of these are from a build from the USA. It's weird. Wrestling fans are very, very weird.
You can blame Hogan for that though, because in Hogan's promo he did say the title's staying in the WWF and in the USA, despite Brett being Canadian
and not going home with them stinking Japs.
So what you're saying, Dan, is that Bret Hart should have come out like Apollo Creed in Rocky IV.
With Canadian flags everywhere.
The other thing I thought about this match is when it finished at this point, we were at 2 hours 39, which is slightly longer than Royal Rumble ran for. So we could have just ended here and everyone would have been happy.
Yep.
I would have been much happier.
Everybody but one person.
Well, so Yokozuna is the new World Wrestling Federation champion, but it doesn't get announced. Hulk was, as soon as that hand hit 3, Hulk Hogan was there.
Yeah. Oh, he knew. He knew he was screwing Brett. He absolutely knew. He was waiting for it.
And him and Brett's on the outside. Mr. Fuji, Hulk Hogan, we challenge you. Yoko looks fucked. Yoko must be thinking, what?
I've only just won this.
I want to sit down a cup of tea and a chocolate biscuit.
And then when he calls Hogan, he calls him like a yellow belly as well. And like, oh god,
yeah.
Don't poke the bear. He'll hulk up in a minute.
So on TV screens, Brett waves him on, so he gets Brett's blessing. Brett says something else, which we'll go into in a bit. But yeah, Hulk Hogan goes into ring. No bell gets rung, by the way. I want to make this clear. Yoko grabs hold of Hogan. Fuji goes to throw the salt in Hogan's eyes. Misses. Hits. Goes into.
The ref stands and watches. The ref there also doesn't say, nope, this is going to end in a DQ because you're going to throw salt in his eyes. That's allowed?
Wasn't Hebner, was it?
It is, Mags, because he's got a count to throw salt in his eyes.
Aye, yeah, because you could still smell the chloroform, yeah.
Yeah.
It was chloroform salt. That's what it was.
But yeah, leg drop, 1, 2, 3. And for the 5th time in his career, a new World Wrestling Federation champion, the immortal Hulk Hogan. Thoughts on the match?
The crowd went wild over that horse shit for some reason.
Yeah.
Because these weren't particularly wrestling fans. These were comp seats for people who were in Vegas to gamble. It's just
Did they all have
they
money on
probably only
Hogan?
knew who Hogan was because it's like he was wrestling at that time. But yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. This was politicking at its worst. Yeah, they should have either left Brett as the champion or Yokozuna to go on a monster run as champion. But no, fucking Hulk Hogan has to be the fucking champion fucking again. Oh, it was annoying. And I knew it was happening. I was still annoyed.
Salty mags.
I've written a 5-word review. Big boot, leg drop, bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done 3. I've done 3 words. Hogan must pose.
Yeah, and it's the smarminess though, like look at me with my title, and I'm like, why don't you go on plane traffic, you twat?
So there's 3 stories. Okay. So there's Brett's story. So leading up to the show, Brett was convinced he was winning the belt till a couple of days beforehand.
When Hogan said, "That won't work for me, brother. You're not in the match. It doesn't matter."
Well, this was it. Like he heard that Hulk was coming back, like 2 or 3, well, a few weeks beforehand, and Hogan avoided Brett. He wouldn't talk to him or anything, and like we know why. But leading up to the show, Brett, like the plan, according to Brett, was that he was retaining the title because up to this point, and obviously I suppose you could say at the end of the show, the babyface walked away with the championship, but at the end of every WrestleMania, the babyface is always walking away with the title. The first time that didn't happen, I think, was WrestleMania 16, where Triple H retained it in the 4-way match. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was the first heel to actually end the show, as the winner. So that tells you that. So Brett just, thought that's the way it's going to be. So yeah, he was told that, Hogan told that he was going to lose to Yoko, and Hogan was going to defeat Yoko. He wasn't happy about it. That point. So a couple of reasons why he was unhappy. Yoko actually finished the match early by 5 or 6 minutes because he put Yoko over, which he did. Yoko looked really good in this match, and he still had spots he wanted to do himself, Brett, and that's why Mr. Fuji was late with the assault as well, because he was caught off guard as well, because they went into the finish 6 minutes early, and so that point as well where he was waving Hogan on, even though it appeared to say that he was like, "Go get him, Hogan." Brett was like, "Yeah, you go and get him. Take away what I've worked for these past years and that. Go and take away my glory and things like that, Hogan." So afterwards, Vince told Brett that the plan was that he was going to win the title back rather at King of the Ring, or that he was going to win it back off Hogan at SummerSlam. So that's Brett's side of the story. Bruce Pritchard, which, 99% of it is bullshit. He said that the reason they put the belt on Hogan was for the tour, the European tour that was upcoming. Because even in today's WWE, which obviously they haven't been able to do lately with COVID, but after every WrestleMania, they always toured Europe or the UK.
Usually the WrestleMania Revenge Tour, something like that.
That's right. They normally do one that time and do one Survivor Series time, roughly. So they thought if we can put the belt on Hogan, this can be his farewell European tour with us, and have him as champion. It makes sense. That was his reason. Only problem was that European tour, Hulk Hogan wrestled 0 matches on that tour. And when he did do a tour in June, I believe, or I think it was, he wasn't the champion because he already dropped the belt back to Yokozuna at King of the Ring.
So you're saying Bruce Pritchard bullshitted?
Yeah.
No.
Bruce, never let the truth get in the way of a good story, Pritchard.
This isn't it. Bruce Pritchard isn't in the history business; he's in the story business.
Yes, correct.
Hulk Hogan's reason. So Hulk came back, and he saw the state of WWE, and the plan was what was going to be happening. The plan, what he heard was that Yoko was always going to defeat Brett in the main event, and he was just going to be in the tag title match. So then he said to Vince, "What if I win the title, and it'll give you some more exposure and stuff like that?" And Vince was like, "I like that idea." So Hogan said to himself, he says in the book, he said, "I can't believe I got myself 2 more pay-per-view paydays." I mean, at least he's fucking honest. Don't give him that he's a dick, but he's honest. And so Brett, so he said he was going to drop the title back to Yoko at King of the Ring, but Brett was under the impression that he was going to take the title off Hogan, and Hogan said, "I never said that." He said, "Well, that's what Vince said to me." So Hogan, in his book, said that him and Brett went to Vince, and Vince said to Brett, "That's what you thought you heard." So there's the three.
Yeah.
There's the 3 stories.
I mean, I know Brett's got like this reputation of kind of like believing that the wrestling business is something that's earned, but this was some political bullshit by Hogan. There's no getting around it. He wormed his way into the title picture. As simple as that. It was him being back at the top of the company again for vanity reasons. It made no sense because it's going backwards. It's going back to what happened like in the late 80s, early 90s. Brett was part of that, the new kind of like generation of actual talented wrestlers, and it stunted him. It absolutely stunted him.
It's contradictory as well, because Vince didn't want Macho to be in the ring because he said he was getting old, and he put him on commentary. But then he brings in Hogan, who I would imagine they're similar age, or if not, Hogan might be a little bit older. I'm not sure, but I would imagine they're similar age. So he's saying to Macho Man, and we know Macho Man's 10 times better worker than, like in-ring worker than Hogan, obviously. And Macho Man actually wanted to be in a program with Shawn Michaels, which would have been amazing. Or he wanted to put over Brett, which that was like some fancy booking I had. But like, if I could have picked 2 people, I like Yokozuna, but if I could have 2 people to win the Rumble, it would have been rather Macho Man, and you could have this big epic match between him and Brett, and lose to Brett and put him over. Or I would have actually had someone like Lex Luger win the Rumble, because Lex Luger was getting pushed pretty strong. Because I like the gimmick, And after this show, it seemed like, because Brett was under the impression as well, I forgot to mention, like going into the show before he heard that he was losing to Yoko, he was going to retain against Yoko. He was going to work with Luger at King of the Ring. And then at SummerSlam, Hogan was going to put him over on his way out as a passer of the torch. So that's what Brett was under the impression. But
if Brett was stupid enough to believe that Hogan had put him over on the way out.
I wonder how many people have actually fell for that. Like, I'm on my way out, I will definitely put you over, but you've got to lose this match first. And then they've come to the second match. Yeah, that ain't working for me, brother.
There's a rumor that they've done a photo shoot. I don't know if I've ever been able to find a picture, but Hogan and Brett is on the beach having a tug of war with the title. There's a rumor that happened, but I don't know if I've ever seen the photos. But if someone's listening to this and if you have seen the photos, please tweet it out to us so we can see it, because I would love to see if that's true. But yeah.
Yeah, it was shit. And the way you phrased it earlier, Hulk Hogan said that he came back in, saw the state of WWE, as he puts it, which means he looked at the company and no matter what, he'd have thought, this would be better with me on top.
Yeah. That's essentially what it is.
They had a lot of rebuilding to do as well, because obviously with the steroid scandals, and there was also the allegations made towards Pat Patterson and stuff, like the Ring Boy scandal or accusations. WWE was in a rebuilding phase as well, and that's one of the reasons they brought Bob Backlund in, because Bob Backlund was clean cut, as you could say. You could tell he wasn't on steroids.
Not even an ounce of fake tan or anything.
Yeah. Like I said, today's generic wrestler. He'll get over in NXT. But Hogan coming back and just taking the company back now, half a year after what WWE's been trying to do, and it was a good match, but the ending just completely spoiled it. But WrestleMania 9, Rob, is it the worst WrestleMania of all time?
It's certainly the worst WrestleMania I've watched recently. I mean, just it says it all. The firework display at the end felt like they'd got a £10 box of fireworks from Asda. There was actually more fireworks on Lex Luger's, glamorous mirror holders, mirrors, than there were on at the end of the show. It's just sort of a damp squib. When you come out of a show and the WrestleMania moment is 2 doinks.
The double doinking mania.
Yeah, I might be being on. I mean, it feels like the worst. I'm sure if I went back and watched, I might have issues with 2 maybe, or
WrestleMania 32.
WrestleMania 4 is pretty awful. It's saved by the main event.
What I did enjoy about this WrestleMania was it was 2 hours 45 minutes.
So it was a bite-sized WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, it didn't like the only time it felt like it dragged was in the tag team title match.
Yeah.
Besides that, for me, it wasn't a tough watch at all. Like I watched it at a good pace. I had to do it in 2 sittings just because of I had no time to watch it. But the 2 sittings I watched it, it did fly by. Besides the Hogan tag match, I don't think it's definitely not the worst show we watched. Survivor Series 91 will still take some beating for being the worst show. Well, is it? I don't think it was. I think Survivor Series 91 is still the worst show we've watched.
I'll go with you on that.
We've still got to get to WrestleMania 11. Let's not forget
that's pretty
horrific show.
I have completely forgotten WrestleMania 11.
Okay, well, just enjoy the Allied Powers versus the Blue Brothers.
I think I'll just enjoy my ignorance.
And we get another Bob Backlund match.
Oh, brilliant.
Against Bret.
Bret Hart on paper said...
that really pissed on your chips.
Bret Hart on paper has actually said it's his worst ever match on TV, pay-per-view. Oh, that was something I forgot to mention. Bob Backlund losing against Razor Ramon was actually his first ever pinfall loss televised.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And in 18 months, he'll be WWF champion.
To be fair, though, they hadn't invented the television last time he was in the company.
Yeah, that's true. It's like bringing back the League Fest.
There were some artist impressions, but...
Yeah.
There's cave paintings of his title reign somewhere.
Cool. So we'll get to some awards. So first award night, match of the night. Mags, we'll start with you.
None of them. I mean, probably. It's so hard because it was not a good card. Probably Lex versus Perfect for me.
Yeah.
Even though, like you said, I didn't even know the story about Lex having to lead the match and Perfect basically asking him what was going on. I still thought it was a fairly decent match. So yeah, I'll go with that.
Rob?
Well, it's got to be Bret Hogan, hasn't it? No.
No, because Bret Hogan never happened.
If only Bret Hogan had happened.
Yeah. No, it's got to be Bret versus Yokozuna. Yeah, I mean, the thing at the end with Hogan was ridiculous, but if you can compartmentalise that, I think we got more out of Yoko than you'd normally expect.
Yeah, it's downhill for Yoko in ring. Tell me, this is his best match. Dan, what about you?
It shows as well, though. I mean, just before you get to that, it shows how good of a ring general Bret actually was. That he got a decent match out of Yokozuna, who should be paid by the numbers, monster heel matches, and Bret still was able to get some unique spots out of it.
It's a family trait, that as well, because one of the matches we reviewed again on early days of UTT was Owen Hart and Yoko versus Men on a Mission. Mm-hmm. And Yoko didn't do much. Owen Hart, was bumping the majority of the match with those, 3 really big dudes around him. But when Yoko did get in, he put in some really good stuff.
And what's your match of the night, then?
I'm actually giving mine to Michaels versus Tatanka, despite the finish, because it was just the match I enjoyed the most. Didn't put me to sleep like the tag match in the middle. I was tempted by Brett versus Yoko, but Michaels Tatanka just edges it for me.
Yeah, I'm probably going Brett for Yoko as well. Like, the finish kind of ruined it, but the match before that was really good, and it was a really good underdog performance by Brett and the way he structured the match. I will give a shout out to Steiner's for the head shrinkers because I did enjoy that match as well. But yeah, Brett and Yoko for me also. So that's the match of the night for WrestleMania 9. Moment of the night, Mags, what's your moment?
It's got to be, and Rob's already kind of telegraphed it. The moment of the night was the two Doinks. It was the most interesting, most kind of like the part where you really sat up and took notice on a very drab card. That was a really cool moment. So yeah, it's got to be Doink Doink.
Rob?
It's got to be Bobby Heenan on the camel.
Yeah. That's pretty epic. Then
It's Heenan on the camel. I've seen that so many times. I've not watched WrestleMania 9 a lot, but I've watched Heenan on the camel so often, and it still absolutely creases me to this day. It's just hysterical. It's one of the best, like, genuine comedy moments in wrestling.
I was torn between two. My second choice is Rene Goulet in the toga, because I think that's just the greatest moment of all time, but it got beat out narrowly tonight. But that's just awesome to see. But I think my greatest moment is Lex Luger's entrance. What can I say? I enjoy seeing hot babes in gold bikinis.
Somebody bonk James on the head and send him to Horny jail.
Oh,
Just on Rene Goulet's greatest moment, Andy from Bam Bam Podcast posted a video of Mean Gene, Vince McMahon, and Rene Goulet trying to make crepe Suzette on a camping stove.
I forgot about that.
Well, and yeah, MVP of the night. Rob, who's your MVP?
My MVP is the CEO of Caesar's Palace, Dan Rickards.
All right.
Because he, got all his points in. He had a clear, concise message he tried to get across. It was a well-branded event, and he wasn't involved in any of the bullshit. So, well, apart from when Todd Pettingill grabbed him.
Lay off Todd. Todd is good.
He's the only one that covered himself in any glory on this show.
Dan?
My MVP is the costume department, or whoever decked out the announcers and the interviewers and all the stagehands and everybody who was like working on the entrances. Like Rob said, it was brilliantly themed, but the costumes for basically everybody on the periphery of the in-ring action were just really on point.
Cool. Mags?
It's hard not. I don't want to do this, but it's hard not to go for Hogan, only because he politicked his way to leaving the pay-per-view that he wasn't involved in the main event, but still left as the champion. That, whether you like it or not, is some MVP bullshit.
Most valuable prick. So
Yeah.
the thing that's got Mags saltier than finding a bubble in his chocolate, Hogan politicking his way to the title, gets his MVP. Oh, Magsy, that's a heel turn and a half.
But I'm not going to go with Hogan because he's a fucking politicking bastard and it was a douchebag move.
He faked us out.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with. I'm going to go with Mean Gene. I thought his little interview segments were really, really on point. Even though he did lie at the beginning, saying he didn't gamble, and then every other one he mentioned going gambling. But I thought him in the toga with the Julius Caesar in the background, and even involving that with the Doink face paint. I think that was like a really good way of linking the show together. So I'm going to go with Mean Gene.
Cool. I'm going to go with the bikini cladded. No, my
the one that stroked Mr. Perfect and got pad.
No, you kind of forget that Yokozuna won the title tonight, don't you? Honestly, I think I'm gonna give it to Bobby Heenan. To be honest, he cracked me up all the way through the show, and him mercilessly torturing JR was a highlight for me. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to Bobby Heenan. He really entertained me tonight, and yeah, I enjoyed the sleds. Yeah, it wasn't the greatest show in the world, but I enjoyed it, and I think, and I mentioned it to Todd Pettingill. I've got a soft spot for it. I think because Rob mentioned top of the show, just the ambience of it, and like they went full in on that Roman Colosseum, Caesar's Palace, and it was different. And I think that's why I remember it so much, because it just stands out so much to, especially today's show. You know, so everything's just the same.
Yeah.
At least this was different, and there was a couple of good matches there and some okay matches. Obviously, the Hogan bullshit at the end, and you know there was a couple of jab affairs. Obviously, Taker for Giant Gonzalez, but I've seen terrible. I've watched Survivor Series 91. This is
You weren't
10
there,
times-
man.
Yeah.
It's still
this
real
is-
to me, damn it.
This is nowhere near that
Super
bad.
Dragon.
But no, this is nowhere near that bad. Nowhere near that bad. I found this entertaining, so I enjoyed the show. But cool. So we'll plug everyone's shows, which you've done quite a lot tonight during this show. I've
Are we not doing a mullet of the night?
Oh,
Yeah.
Mullet of the night. Oh
Yeah,
shit!
I was having scar problems, so I assumed you'd done it without me. So I didn't egg on, but yeah, if we haven't covered it, because this is the return of the mullet. We had a few pay-per-views where mullets were looking like they were going out of fashion, but Jesus Christ, WrestleMania 9 brought the mullets.
Yeah,
Like Hulk Hogan brought us back to the 80s.
Hulk Hogan's mullet was cut straight across the bottom as well, and he like perfectly straightened it. It was honestly like if someone had took a ruler and literally cut across it. It was the perfect mullet, but he don't win.
Well,
He's a douchebag.
right, Dan, you're the mullet expert. You start us off. I do apologise for forgetting the mullet of the night.
Put that on your LinkedIn, Dan Mullet Expert.
Right, I'm going a little bit weird again, but when Undertaker was being stretchered out after being brutally
I know who you're
chloroformed,
gonna pick. I know.
there was
I'm
a
picking
kid
him.
kid pushing the stretcher, had an absolutely sublime mullet.
Yes. I don't
So,
know.
stretcher lad.
Is that a young Jack Doan?
No idea.
It's referee. He's a referee as well. I think it was him. I'm googling that shit now.
Jack Dunn mullet.
I think it was Jack Doan. I might be wrong.
Jack Dunn, 1993.
I was worried when I saw all those people, you know, carrying out Macho Man and Sedan and stuff. I thought Dan's going to be picking one of these. He did.
Oh yeah, I saw the one guy. Yeah, he had a good mullet. One of the guys that's carrying him. It looked like him. I think it might have been Jack Doan. Is he alive? Can I ask him?
Is he alive? See, Jack Dawn on his Wikipedia page is only 5'6". So
It looks like him. Obviously, he's aged since, but it looks like him. But yeah, he had a great mullet anyway. But that's also my choice. I was tempted to give it to Luna Vachon, but I don't know if it counts. Cause...
yeah, I'm absolutely giving mine to Luna Vachon. It's not very often you see a woman being able to pull off a mullet, and she did that for the majority of her WWF career. So I'm happy to go women's rights and pick Luna Vachon for mullet of the night.
Cool,
So-
Rob.
Well, I'm going to split the vote. If you two are going for Jack Doan, I'm going to go with Mags and go for Luna Vachon. Curly at the front, shaved at the sides, long at the back. Iconic.
And tattooed. She went all along and tattooed all the way across.
Tempted to change my pick now, but I like to go for the obscure mullet.
Yeah, I remember that mullet from being a kid. I remember it vividly. It's probably not even Jack Doan for some reason. I'm sure that's Jack Doan, but like really young. Because since then he's had like a buzz cut. So he went hardcore and getting rid of that mullet. Go. So yeah, so we're back to plugging shows. So yeah, Mags, plug away.
Okay, so you can follow me on Twitter at PodfatherMags. I'm part of the team over at Radiotekers, where we're doing football, MMA, and food takes with a little bit of wrestling mixed in. Usually annoying Dan with some Turkish delight talk or mushroom talk. So you can follow that at youtube.com. I'm assuming by the time we come out of this, we've got our own URL. So just search Radiotekers on YouTube. I'm also part of the team at Visionaries and Chairshot, where, again, I'm involved in more podcasts than a human should ever be involved in. But definitely check out A Change in Attitude. If you slightly enjoyed this era of wrestling, we're going into the slightly better and then a little bit worse era of early 1996 Raw. So definitely come and check that out.
Cool. Rob and Dan, tell everyone about UTT.
Go on, Rob, it's your baby. Your brainchild, I mean.
Well, you can listen to myself and Dan on Booking the Territory. Search UTT podcast on Twitter. We're available if you're listening to this show on That Night Is Wrestling podcast channel. We're available there or on our own podcast channel. We're just entering that era of Nitro where the crowd are chanting mullet at Mike Awesome. So that's very
maybe he'll win Mullet of the Night one that. Who knows?
Well, we've renamed it the Rene Goulet Award for Outstanding Haircut of the Night because we've passed the mullet era. But if you enjoy haircut talk, you'll certainly hear more of it on that show. If you want to follow me, I'm at UTT Rob. It's really more about the mutuals and the followers, so absolutely more than happy to follow back if you follow me.
Cool. Dan?
You can find me on Twitter at DanGriffin21, usually tweeting wrestling that's a minimum 6 weeks out of date, and movies that are 25 years out of date. And as Rob said, I'll be on UTT every week with him, trying to sound like I know what I'm talking about. So please do give it a listen and let me know how I can improve.
Cool.
And I'll totally not take that advice on board.
Because I'll just end up being drunk.
Cool. And if you want to follow me, follow me on Twitter at 90s Wrestling Pod. Follow me on Instagram and on Facebook, that 90s Wrestling Podcast. And yeah, please give us a like and subscribe. Really does help us out if you listen to this on the podcasting platform or on YouTube. And also, announcement. So time this goes out. I also started a new side channel with not Rene Goulet, unfortunately, but I'm starting the show with Rene Dupree, former star from the Ruthless Aggression era. It's called Cafe de Rene, and we're taking a weekly review at the week's biggest news, matches, rumours, while also talking about more stories from Rene's time in wrestling and his career, and yeah, some fun stories he's sharing with wrestlers who are still wrestling today and these interactions with them. So yeah, if you want to head over to YouTube or on podcasting and type in Cafe de Rene with Rene Dupree, give us a subscribe there. So till then, next time we'll be looking at King of the Ring 93, where Hogan's going to do the right thing, possibly, by dropping the title to a new talent, and Bret Hart puts on a star performance show. So until then, we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.